my concern was more like if they're adding a building, there's still going to be a church. So aren't they still required to have parking for the other use of the facility?
So
Ms. Brown, we are live. There you go. Go on, Marissa.
I just wanted to say we're live now.
Good time for me.
It sure is.
All right. Today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, and it is 6:02 p.m. This is an 8-member board appointed by the City of South Fulton, the mayor, and the council to hold public hearings to make recommendations on rezoning, use permits, and concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan map, and the amendments to the zoning resolution. Citizens may speak for or against a zoning issue, and each side will have up to 10 minutes total to present its case. Tonight's virtual meeting, citizens may enter their comments and questions in the YouTube chat or email us at planning@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. The Planning Commission's recommendations will be forwarded to the city's mayor and the council for final decision on the fourth Tuesday of September. We will proceed to the items on the agenda. And I will read the agenda. All right. So we will ask the committee to do the roll call. I'm sorry, not the committee, the staff to do the roll call.
Rodney Hadley,
Present.
Janine Brown,
Present.
Reverend Shannon Jones, Janai Walters,
Present.
Rachel Williams,
Present.
Shatikwa Floyd,
Present.
Tamika Weatherly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Dana. The first order of business, we will have an approval of our minutes from our regular meeting that was held on Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. Have all the commissioners reviewed the meeting minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Any comments or changes?
I have one change. Page 4, quarter of the way down, Commissioner Rodney Hadley states that he does not know how to proceed with comments being not responded to, or comments not being responded to. There needs to be a not in there.
Okay. All right. So we want to correct that sentence by adding a not, the word not.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Anyone else?
This is Janai Walters. Rodney, I just had a quick question for you on page 1 with regards to stating about the control. Is it intended to read control of the first inch of water about halfway down in the old business? It states, Planning Commissioner Rodney Hadley states that there could be control of the first inch of water.
Yes, ma'am. That's referring to the stormwater.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Other than that, no other comments.
All right. We'll have a motion. Can we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June?
Yes, ma'am. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June.
Janai Walters, I second the motion.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the meeting minutes from June. We'll have the staff do a roll call vote.
All right. Rodney Hadley,
Yes.
Janine Brown,
Aye.
Janai Walters,
Aye.
Rachel Williams,
Aye.
Shatikwa Floyd.
Aye.
It is unanimous for approval.
Thank you. We have no old business, so we will move on to new business. Tonight we have 4 properties that we will review and vote on. And we will have the committee will pull those properties up on screen. I'm sorry, I keep calling it the committee. The staff will pull those up for us and we'll review those and open the floor for public comment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nathan Lombardo. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator for the City of South Fulton. I'll be doing the talking during the staff presentation portion of this section, which hopefully mine will not be the main voice you hear tonight, because I know how people's reaction to my voice typically is. Let's go to the next slide, and the chair is free to open the first case up here.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. The first case is Z20-001, located at 6705 Camp Valley Road. The petitioner has asked that we postpone the discussion of this until our September meeting in order to complete a traffic study that has been requested by the community.
And so if you would make a motion, just table this, and it'll be brought up at the September Planning Commission meeting where they will have more information available for all of us. I
will open the floor to make a motion to table this property for hearing.
This is Janai Walters. I make a motion to table this case Z20-001 for review in September.
This is Rodney Hadley. I second that.
It has been moved and properly second that we table property located at Z20-001 until the September meeting. We'll have a roll call vote. All in favor, say aye, and the staff will read the commissioners' names.
All right. Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Aye.
Janai Walters,
Aye.
Rachel Williams,
Aye.
Shatika Floyd.
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank
We'll move
you.
on to the second property. Z20-002, located at 2210 Wallace Road. The petitioner is proposing a rezoning from AG1 agriculture to CUP, a community unit plan. The purpose of building a single family homes. The site is surrounded by single family homes. The development, sorry, everyone. That back up. The development proposed fits both current characteristics of the area and the Fulton 2035 plan. Staff recommendation is approved for the conditions submitted by the developer. We will open the floor for public comment.
This is Nathan
yeah,
real quickly. Marissa, just flip through these. This is a GIS map for the public to see with the zoning property. The property is zoned AG1, surrounded by R3 properties, and it is currently undeveloped, as you can tell from the Google Street View. This is an overview of the site plan that was submitted by the petitioner. There's the overall site. And then the last slide here is some proposed elevations. And I do believe that the petitioners are on the call. And if they are, the committee is free to ask them questions and they can make a presentation if need be as well.
All right. You want to have the petitioners, any comments, anything that you'd like to share?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Roy Harris. I'm a real estate broker. I'm working with the investor on this property. And we had a meeting with the community last week regarding this project. And we got some feedback from the community. They were a little concerned about our CUP. And we heard them loud and clear because as we know, everything kind of in front of the property, Wind Creek and those others, is CUP. And I believe, what is it, Madison Trace is CUP as well. We are flexible with that. We're willing to do R5 if that would make them a little more comfortable. They gave us some other conditions, which as you guys see, we're willing to meet. you know, sidewalks in front of the property and the community, which we were going to do anyway. Covenants that specify that from a rental perspective, we will have HOA that states that they can't have anything more than 33% rentals in the community. You know, they had a little, I guess, a current issue with another development in that area. So they're a little gun shy about CUP now, although I think it's consistent with the neighborhood and the best. We are willing to be more flexible if necessary regarding that. And basically we plan on 38 residential homes, not townhomes, residential homes. And we're gonna put a land barrier up between Wallace Road and the properties, because as you see, if you go back to the previous screen, the back of the properties, some of them face Wallace Road. So we would put a landscape barrier between Wallace Road and the houses as well.
Can we flip to the site plan, please?
Yeah, so if you see there on Wallace Road, the back of the house is kind of, you know, you'd see those, but we're going to put nice, you know, landscaping between those ferns and some other evergreen and some other things. So you would not see physically the backs of the properties.
Thank you,
The
Mr. Harris.
house is pretty close together. I was looking at the side back and it said 5 feet. That's not consistent with the other properties in the area.
Well, yeah, and I heard that comment earlier. I guess, you know, from a standpoint of the ones in Madison Trace that were built, I guess about almost 20 years ago. No, it wouldn't be. Those are, you know, probably half acre per. But I mean, you know, with, I guess, cities and things moving towards more density, it wouldn't be economically feasible for us to put half acre properties. We could only put 6 properties on this parcel if we did half acres per property. We already lose on, if you look at the north end of it, the northeast end, we lose about 2 acres just because coming off of Skyview, it's a real significant drop. So
Well, you're doing 3 properties, you're doing 3 homes to an acre now, correct?
Yes.
So what's the difference from going from 2? How would you just get 6 homes if you moved to two homes an acre?
Well, no, not a half acre. They're saying each home is, so on each acre, it's 2 homes, correct? Across the James Madison. And let me, I'm going to answer your question, but let me ask another question. Are those houses on city or are those on septic as well? I've been trying to figure that out.
That's on city. That's on city. However, my question was, in your report, you have 3 houses per acre in your subdivision.
Yeah, Chuck, do you want to speak to that? Or Udi?
Yes, that's correct. We have 3 units, 3 houses per acre.
Chuck is the engineer, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not so much of a stretch. If you do 2 per acre, it would be more consistent with the property that's there. And 90% of the homes in that area have been built over 20 years ago, with the exception of the community, that the small bit of a neighborhood that was developed across the street from this, that are having a great deal of problems because of the way the community, because of the way the houses were developed and set up in there. They're close together, no way in or out, and they're having a big problem with crime. So we don't want to duplicate the same problem across the street.
Well, I mean, if you look at our development here, we've got, you know, it is one way in, true, but we've laid it out, I thought, in a logistical manner. I mean, the houses are, setbacks are 5 on each side, which means it's 10 between the houses. That's really the best we could do with this concept plan here.
Right, and we're, you know, under the fire marshal's threshold for having 2 entrances. But if we were down to 2 lots per acre, I mean, we would cut easily 33% of the lot yield. I just don't think it would be, you know, financially feasible. Also considering we're running our sanitary sewer like 500 feet along Wallace Road to tie in. So
Well, I think as the community, we're more interested in the preservation of the community than in your financial benefit. Those houses are pretty close together, 10 feet apart. That stands out considerably from everything else that is there. I'd be interested to hear what the community has to say about that. What was the participation like from your meeting?
Well, I mean, there was a mixed participation. They they had a concern about the CUP, so we were flexible and willing to change the R5 from the CUP because of that previous experience. When I researched the history of that experience, it had a different historical perspective. So I don't think it was, I do understand what they're saying, and that's why we heard them and made the change. I still felt that what we were attempting to do was still much different than the problem they had over there on Farron Road. But once again, in an effort to compromise, we were willing to change the zoning.
I don't think I I didn't understand what the public's concern was. You said more of a historical, what do you mean?
Well, just to talk about it, from Farron Road, the guy built over there, he built 31 houses. He did not have, he didn't market it with a realtor to sell it. He tried to sell it himself. He had water problems over there. So therefore they had to shut down the development. It sat for about a year. And then when he came back, he just basically rented all the properties rent to own. And so they're in the process of converting them to owners, but the business model and the planning, the way he went about it, that's what was the problem with the community. They were really upset about the way they went about their development, which meant that they had created a rental community. That is not this developer's goal. We're building these to sell these properties and to, enhance the community. But their feedback was concerning zoning simply because they felt with CUP that they were able to get away with whatever it is they did. And they're kind of looking at that as a generic problem for any developer coming in. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand.
So, and, of course, our rebuttal was, that's not the case. That's not what we're trying to do. That's not what our concept plan shows. We're here to market it. However, as mentioned again, in an effort to compromise and make the community more comfortable, we were willing to just change the zoning to R5 or our request to R5 if needed, which would still allow us to do what we wanted to do. Their other concerns were having a barrier. They were concerned about not looking at the back of the houses off of Wallace Road. So we talked about, creating a landscape barrier along there. They're concerned about sidewalks not being on Wallace Road at all. And of course, we're prepared to do sidewalks on our piece of the parcel, but we're not willing to do sidewalks all the way up and down Wallace Road. I mean, that's the city's responsibility, or if they chose to, but we can do it on our parcel. We're willing to do that. Inside the community, we're going to do it, and outside the community. So those were the concerns, kind of the frontage of the house, sidewalks, and the zoning and rental. And so, we put in the clause for no more than 33% rental possibility in the HOA covenants and bylaws. So that would protect the community as well. So it would never become a rental community. So we're prepared to do everything that the community asked us to do.
Mm-hmm. Where would you put the second entrance exit?
We weren't planning on putting a second entrance.
Hey, this is Nathan really quick. I want to say, I just want to thank the engineer for mentioning that during his comments. I know that was brought up in pre-app meetings, but if you are under the threshold, then you discuss it with the fire marshal, then that obviously that would stand. So I just wanted to vocalize that.
Exactly. Thank you, Nathan.
Commissioners, any other questions before we open for public comment?
This is Janai Walters. The only other question I have was with the public participation. How much public participation did you have? How many residential owners participated?
On the Zoom chat meeting, we had 33 participants.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
So it was plenty of participation, and they were real animate about their feelings, so they spoke up.
They are. It's a very
there,
active community.
Were there associations present? It's good. It should be 3 or 4 in that immediate area.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
There were at least 3 associations who spoke as well.
A question. This is Rachel Williams. And you said how many meetings did you have in the community? Just one?
Yeah, we had one meeting with the community. We did the mailers according to the protocol, and we had an hour meeting with the community.
Okay. Well, I want to state with Rodney, I don't agree with the 5 feet in between. It's only as tall, if it's 10 feet, it's only as tall as a door. But that's really tight. Because a door is about 8 feet. So that's just, I'm with you, Rodney, on that one.
The average distance between houses in that community ranges approximately 150 to 300 feet. I would say 100 to 300 feet on average. That's a big jump going from 100 to 10.
Commissioners, any other comments or questions? All right, Mr. Gray and Ms. Jackson, do we have any public comments that have come into the email address or to YouTube?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Marissa.
Marissa.
So we have quite a few comments in the YouTube chat, and I'd just like to make a general announcement that we see the comments and we're responding to them. And it helps if people send all their comments together at once so that we can make sure we respond to everyone individually. And so I'm going to start from the top of the list. It says Eric Shepard says that the objection to the current proposal has been sent to the commission, and that
Marissa?
Yes.
Okay, you weren't very clear. Stay in the mic.
Okay, hold on.
Marissa, you there?
Eric to the commission.
Are you there?
Uh-oh,
Yeah,
Marissa.
Can
All
you
right, Marissa, you're cutting out.
And now if you're talking, Marissa, we can't hear you.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the first comment is from Eric Shepard, and he says that he sent his comment to the commission, and he disagrees with that the plan fits the current conditions. It says that they're not opposed to the CUP, but they're opposed to the number of homes and the acreages. He says Madison Trace is the community that is most impacted by the development. And would they be able to change and have more acreage per home? He says that's a red herring and they're not concerned about the CUP, but rather the quality of what they're proposing. The number one concern is the value of the property. And he says one meeting and most people did not receive notice in advance. The next comments come from Andre Elam, and he says homes need to have some characteristics and price point. They need to have similar acreage and be 3-sided brick. He says that we need to be present with the builder. He says that we need to be presented with the builder's previous construction on the north side of Atlanta, there were 1.23 acres per lot size. And it says that they're cutting 40% of the equity with the current plan, and that the concern is about decreasing the value of their homes. We have additional comments from LPGA Amateurs Atlanta membership, and it says, we are very concerned. Everyone did not get the information. We are not for this. We asked for the houses at 500,000, 1 acre for Madison Trace. What else did he say? Everyone did not get the information, and mailers did not go to everyone. But they're building right in front of the Madison Trace subdivision. And it says that he asked that this meeting be postponed, and they did not know how it works. We have other comments from DJ Inc., who says this might as well be townhomes with the current setbacks and minimum lot distances. And Kimberly Richardson says that she did not receive notice and no mailers were received at the home of Chris O, and they live in close proximity to the location. And Councilman Khalid said, what is the price point for these homes?
Okay.
Does Dana, give me just 1 second. Does the participant or the petitioner have any, some of those were kind of pointed, does the petitioner have any comments in regards to the notification or price points of these homes they would like to make?
Yeah, 2 things. One, the notices, you guys gave us a list. Marissa provided a list to us. Everybody, we can provide you verification that we sent them via mailer in an envelope to each person. There was over 100 people on that list. Those went out about 2.5 weeks ago. And, you know, we provided confirmation for that. So everybody did receive those. That was within that. I think it's a quarter or a half a mile. I forget what the criteria was.
It's a quarter mile.
Okay, so everybody within a quarter mile was sent a notice in a timely manner. You know, I can't, you know, speak to whether people read it, threw it away, looked at it, or what they did, but we followed the, you know, the protocol of what was supposed to take place. That's first of all. Secondly, regarding price point, we worked with a appraiser. We got a professional appraiser to do several appraisals for us, and based on their professional opinion, we've got to start the houses somewhere in the low 300s. You know, I mean, it's the challenge for us is we're looking at density, building in a new city. The properties across the street are, I know in an ideal world, we'd all like to build, you know, $500,000-$700,000 houses on a half acre. That was done quite a while ago, and it's just not feasible to do that now. The price of the price point is in the low 3s. That's what the appraisal said. And so that's where we start. The goal is to, as we build phases, meaning we build 4 houses, then we can continue to increase the price point. Our goal is to get up into the 400,000s. But if you actually run the comps professionally for that area, a lender is not going to give you but X amount of money for those current properties based on the consistency of the comparables and what's selling in that neighborhood. And the whole goal is the more it becomes dense, the more properties you have. Of course, that price point will increase.
Thank you. Dana, any more questions? Any more comments come in, Dana, through the email address?
Yes, I did. Marissa did read Mr. Shepard's comments. He is the president of Madison Trace, along with Mabel Martin, who's the president of the HOA for Woodside Hills. And I'll just name off a couple of things. the number one criteria of increasing their home values and discouraging multiple rental units. And they strongly suggest, consider their objections and suggestions for more upscale community that will benefit, not decrease, their serenity and, most importantly, their home values. I have two more. So one would be from Linda Jordan, who totally agrees with Mr. Harris. They are asking him to delay instead of trying to ram this down their throats. And then we have Henry West Cantrell III. He says he thinks the development is fine. It is keeping with the current neighborhood trends in Tributary, in Douglas, East Atlanta, and other neighborhoods currently being built. Younger people want homes without a lot of yard upkeep, but with good square footage. The current trend is also homes that don't have a lot of brick. Nothing over in that neighborhood has two entrances, only Wexwood Glen. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, and to his point, to Mr. Cantrell's point, he's absolutely correct. If you look at what's trending in the city and neighborhoods, and we're, you know, with the add-ons and upgrades, we're willing to add 3 or 4 sides of brick. But if you see what's being built mostly nowadays is not 4-sided brick homes. That's not what's happening. I do understand that's across the street, but you know, the 4-sided brick is going to be very cost prohibitive in 2020, where I'm sure it was less cost prohibitive in 2003 or before.
And if I can interject, from the first case, I had 2 comments, and I just wanted to say for the record that those comments would be read at that postponed meeting, which would be in September. So I just wanted to acknowledge the 2 comments from Z20001. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
All right, we will close public comment. And we will have a motion for this property located at 2210 Wallace Road. The commissioners have no more questions.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this hearing until next month to give the public a better opportunity to respond and weigh in.
This is Janai Walters. I second that motion.
It has been motioned and seconded that the property located at 2210 Wallace Road be postponed for approval until the September 22nd meeting, in order to give more opportunity for public comment and to respond to the public. We'll have a roll call vote with the affirmative and aye, or if you oppose, nay.
Ms. Brown, if I may, this is Nathan. The September Planning Commission meeting is on September 15th.
Oh, okay, September 15th.
Will that be enough time to solicit requests or to reach out to everyone?
Yes, the 4th.
I believe that question's for Mr. Harris.
I'm sorry, you're asking us to reach out. I guess my question is, what would we be reaching out to them for?
There was a comment that many people may not have had an opportunity to weigh in because of the notice or lack thereof. Now,
Well, there was no lack thereof, but I understand what you're saying. I mean,
right. Not to say that you all did anything or did not do your part. However, we do have a sensitive situation. We are on we do have COVID. Everyone can't come out and weigh in physically. And that also limits our interaction and ability to get.
They did a Zoom call, Commissioner.
Correct.
And we also want to make sure that we also keep in mind that the requirement is for 1/4 mile. So some of the people who weighed in and said that they did not get notice may be outside of that quarter
Exactly.
mile of the property.
Exactly. So the question to me is that enough time for us to send out another notice?
Yes, sir.
And does that mean we would need to have another call with them again? Is that what I just need to understand them. We're open to it and amenable. So I understand, I'm only asking so
Yes,
I understand what the process would be now.
That is my recommendation. Yes, sir.
So that we send another mailing out, we meet with them again, we hear their concerns again, and then we come back in the 15th. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And I think
Yeah, I mean, we can do it. I don't see what will be different. I mean, their concerns are probably going to be the same, but we can do it again if you want.
Well, this is a major development, and like one of the participants or neighbors in the community said, we do not want to rush this or shove it down anyone's throat. So if that is the reception, if that's how they're feeling, we definitely have to do something about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we'll send it out again. We'll have another Zoom call, and I guess we'll see you all on September.
Well, first, Mr. Harris, we have to vote. So we'll see if the commissioners all feel the same way. Depending on how the vote comes out, it will determine if there will be another meeting.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we propose to move it to September, and the community give their input, is the developer going to make any changes, or it still stays the same?
Who's talking?
This is Rachel Williams.
Hey, Commissioner Williams. Well, they would bring it back. I think from what I've heard, and I'll let the staff weigh in. I know the staff has recommended that we move forward. I think it sounds like to me that one of the biggest concerns is the size of the lots and the size of the homes. I think taking into consideration what was said, I think that if this passes and we push this back to the developer and his team to respond, I think they can respond to those questions, right? What the properties would look like, talk about the trends in the community. And I don't want to lead this, but I think those would be the things that they would be addressing. And if they can address those, bring those back to us. And then it's up to us to decide if we want to make a recommendation to the mayor and the council, to the city council, on how they should proceed. Because once we make the recommendation, the city council still has to approve to move forward. If I'm not mistaken, is that correct, staff?
Correct.
That is correct.
All right. So we want to resume our motion. Rodney, would you like to make that motion again, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to delay this zoning hearing until September for the purpose of allowing residents in the area to weigh in.
Can you include the property location and the number?
Property location is 2210 Wallace Road, zoning ordinance Z20-002.
Thank you.
This is Janai Walters. I second the motion again.
It has been moved and properly second that the property located at 2210 Wallace Road, zoning number 20-002, be postponed for vote and brought back to the community to respond to their questions until the September 15th meeting. We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Gray, will you take the roll call?
Yes. Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Nay.
Janai Walters,
Yay.
Rachel Williams,
Yay.
Natikwa Floyd.
Aye.
It passes 4-1.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for presenting, and we will see you all again in September on the 15th.
Thank you.
All right, Nathan, we'll move on to the next property.
Sure. Let's just go to the next slide. This is Z20-003 for two parcels, 3825 and 3895 Jonesboro. Petitioner is going to rezone these from AG1 to SH senior housing. They want to develop a senior housing facility. This is a developer who has experienced building these types of facilities and wants to build a similar unit in this area that they have done in other places in the Southeast. It is a more high traffic area with some commercial development nearby, and this type of development would blend in relatively well in the area. And the staff recommendation is approval here. Marissa, if you would go to the next slide, please.
Can we postpone this one to the last presentation that we discussed today?
Is this one Michelle needs to wait on?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, Michelle, you're not on the call right now? She's the representative for these petitioners. If the board doesn't have any problems, we can move on to the next case and bring this one up at the end. I know she was double booked with the meeting elsewhere tonight.
That's fine.
No problem.
All right, let's go to the next one. All right, Z20004 is 8185 Spence, seeking to rezone from AG1 to M1 to build a warehouse. This is an interesting case because the property that is in South Fulton, immediately proximate to this property, is zoned agricultural. There is one property in South Fulton that is sort of cat a corner if you look at a larger map that is zoned industrial, and it is developed industrial. But there is major industrial development in the area that is not in the city of South Fulton, but it is basically bordering the site. So if you look on the Google map, you can see those two parcels that are big industrial developments are not in South Fulton. But the property to the lower left is in South Fulton, and obviously the current property is in South Fulton as well. So it's kind of a jigsaw down there in that area of our municipality and others. If you would go to the next slide, Marissa. This is an overall view of what they're trying to do, just one warehouse facility. There would be sufficient buffering and natural areas in the property as outlined by our code, and staff does recommend approval of this one. And I'll turn it over to the commissioners and the petitioners.
We'll open the floor for commissioners that have any questions about this property. All right, we'll have the property owner and developer, if you'd like to make a presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Harold Buckley, and I am an attorney representing Brian Cardoza, who is the applicant in this case. And Brian Cardoza is on the line as well to answer questions if there are any from the body. Excuse me. As Nathan said, this piece of property is located at 8185 Spence Road. It is currently zoned agricultural, but it does back up basically to the city limits between the city of South Fulton and the city of Fairburn. The property that it backs up to is an industrial property, and there are a number of other industrial developments on the Fairburn side of the line, which is what that area is zoned for and designated in Fairburn's comprehensive plan. The city of South Fulton zones most of the property on its side of the line, either agricultural. There are one or two industrial zonings, but you do have a couple of industrial developments that are interspersed in that area on the South Fulton side of the line. The property itself on Spence Road that we're looking at is developed with two single-family detached houses and a detached garage that were all built in the 1950s. They have been vacant and non-used for a number of years, and as a result, they have deteriorated into an advanced state of disrepair. The property to the east of us is a single-family house, but the way we have configured our development, our building is about 285 feet from the property line that we share with this residential neighbor. And then there is about 100 feet of tree cover between where our building would sit and that neighbor's house would sit. So there's no way that the neighbor would be able to see through that heavily tree covered area to see our development. And the tree cover would also provide buffering in terms of sounds and other potential impacts between the two properties. So we really don't think that there is an appreciable risk of direct impacts on the next door neighbor. Now, we did have our public participation meeting last week. We had 9 neighbors who participated, along with 4 folks on my team who were there. I think the low number of people who attended is because the development density, the residential development density, is fairly low around us. So while we sent notice letters to everybody on the list that the city provided us, the list just simply wasn't that long because there aren't that many people within that radius around our property. You can see just on the edge of the site plan to the west of us, that is Whitewater Creek. We have submitted an environmental impact report and study with our application. And the environmental study shows that we won't have any adverse environmental impacts on that creek or any other environmentally sensitive areas because we don't really have any on our site. But I think that the most relevant question for tonight's conversation is basically a question that came up during the meeting last week, which is why here? Why does this location make sense out of all the other properties that we could go to? And one of the things I explained was that the way we locate sites for potential facilities is to basically look at gaps in the supply chain for our system, and then look for properties in the area to fill that gap. And we settled on this property because it was the one that was available, that was sufficiently large, and was also sufficiently near other industrial development to sort of make sense for our development. As Nathan mentioned, there is another warehouse on the other side of the creek from us. It is about 325,000 square feet, and we're about 20% smaller than that at 252. But getting back to the question of why does this location make sense? We did hear loud and clear that the residents in the area, they look at the industrial development and say, hey, look, this is not a good thing for us. The roads have not been expanded to comfortably facilitate that sort of movement. The roads are in bad condition. And, the road is small and there is some wear on it. It is very similar in configuration to Oakley Industrial in segments near the intersection of Spence and Oakley, but they do have a point. And the way I would respond to that is this. I don't think that the city of South Fulton, or let me not generalize to the whole city, but this community has as much of an industrial development problem as it has a revenue problem. Because as Nathan mentioned, all but 2 of the warehouses down in this area are on the Fairburn side of the line. And so Fairburn is reaping the financial benefits of all that development down there. And the residents in the city of South Fulton are bearing the burdens with no, compensatory benefits. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, we took a look at this property in particular, and right now, the annual property tax on this property is $10,000 or, $100,000 over the course of 10 years. Given that the school system gets about 60% of that revenue, the city's actual cut is $4,000 a year or $40,000 over 10 years. That's the revenue that's being generated by this property now. If we were to be approved and develop this warehouse, the annual property tax would go from $10,000 a year to $141,000 a year, or $1.41 million over the course of 10 years. The city's cut of that annual revenue would be $56,400 or $564,000 over the course of 10 years. With that kind of revenue, you're talking about over $500,000 just from this one building over the course of 10 years. That can pay for a lot of city services, including improvements to the local road network. When you look at the school system, where they get $6,000 a year now, after this warehouse is developed, the school system would get $84,600 a year in property tax revenue. And you multiply that by 10 over the course of 10 years, that's $846,000 for the local school system. That's found money because this development is not going to put one more child in the local school system. So when you talk about $846,000 over the course of 10 years for the school system, that's 100% profit because there are no costs that go along with that. Another benefit that we're talking about with this development comes in the form of job benefits. We have estimated that this particular development, while it is under construction, will generate 125 to 150 construction jobs. Now, those are temporary jobs, but they're still jobs. And while we have not we don't have numbers for permanent jobs, I'll tell you that I have worked on similar facilities in other locations, the most recent one being Ellenwood, which was about the same size as this one. And in that case, that warehouse generated 250 permanent jobs. That warehouse also generated an annual direct payroll of $25 million with an overall economic impact of $132 million. And then finally, we talk about the property tax revenue that would be generated again by this one building in this location. On top of the property tax, you have ad valorem tax that the city of South Fulton would collect on the inventory in this warehouse. And that ad valorem tax, which is basically the same tax that we all pay on our car tags every year, would generate as much money as the property tax, if not more. But the difference is the city wouldn't have to split 60% of that with the school system. I mean, that is a lot of revenue to make the improvements that we heard need to be made down in this location. So for all of those reasons, obviously, if we were approved and were able to move forward with the development, it would be good for us. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. It's good for me because I got the zoning approved. It's good for my client because they get the economic benefit of the development. But contrary to what you hear in so many situations, this would also be good for the city of South Fulton and this community because of all the financial benefits that it would provide and all the services and infrastructure improvements it could fund just, again, from this one development. So with that, let me back up. The last thing I want to mention is that this is not, in terms of being upside down on the tax digest, this is not just a problem in this community. This is an issue for the entire city of South Fulton because I went through the comprehensive plan, and according to the comprehensive plan, approximately 84% of all the land in the city of South Fulton is zoned for either residential or public uses. When you look at public finance principles and realities, local governments lose money on residential development, particularly single-family residential development. To put that another way, I'm a homeowner and I pay property tax, but I don't pay nearly enough in property tax to pay for all the sanitation services, the police services, the fire services, the park services, the library services, all of the services that the local government provides to me. I don't even come close to covering that. And you're talking about public property, that's tax exempt. Where the local government starts to erase that deficit and actually come out ahead is when it comes to commercial and industrial development because of the high amount of property tax and the ad valorem tax that's involved in that. So if you have 84% of all the land losing money on the tax digest, you're relying on the remaining 16% that's zoned for all the other uses, the office, the retail, the commercial, the industrial. And when you look at industrial, it's less than 7% based on, again, the figures in the city's comprehensive plan. So for all of those reasons, I would ask you to recommend approval of this application, and I'm very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Buckley. Mr. Gray and Ms. Jackson, any public comments?
I have one public comment from YouTube. Coleman would like to know, is the warehouse on Spence being built speculatively, or is there a tenant already in mind? If so, then who is the tenant?
I will let Brian Cardozo respond to that question because I think I know the answer, but I don't want to misspeak. Brian, can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Hey, good evening. This is Brian Cardozo, the applicant. And yes, it will be built on a speculative basis. We do not have a user at this point.
Right. Mr. Gray, any comments on the email?
No, I have no comments.
All right, we'll close public comment. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Well, I have a question. And it's good to know that this is a spec building. It looks like there was some, well, the first thing I had, it's a spec building. So it looks like there's some concerns, again, around the ingress and egress on the site, and also just traffic backing up. And so Attorney Buckley, you kind of spoke to this a little bit about the road conditions, and that you've heard some feedback about the roads not being wide enough. What is going to be done about the trucks backing up? I've been in that situation myself in other parts of South Fulton.
So before I take a stab at an answer, when you say doing something about trucks backing up, can you give me a little more information about what you've seen in terms of the trucks backing up?
Not this particular, of course, not this particular site, but just the long line of trucks that are entering into a site, the time that it takes to get those trucks in, if they're going through a gate or have to check in, and if there's enough lanes and enough space, and how far will the building be set back as the trucks come in and out of on the property?
Brian, will the ingress and egress points from this site be gated, or will it be free flowing?
Yeah, we would not build it as gated on a spec basis. So what we'll do is through our engineering, we will do what's required. If a left turn lane was required or a right decel lane was required, in order to get our permit, that's what we're going to need to do. But if you look at let's see the drawing on the screen, we've got over 300 feet of driveway from Spence Road to the back of the truck court. A truck with a rig and a trailer is about 72 feet. So it gives you plenty of room for trucks. If they were needing to line up, there would be room down that driveway. The other thing we've done is propose two drive aisles, one on each side of the building, which allows for trucks to come in one way and go out the other. So you can actually make a portion of your drive be and then lastly, I'll just comment to buildings this size.
This is Nathan. Could someone with that buzzing please mute their phone?
It seems like it's still there. I'll try to speak quickly. And
I think it's gone.
Typically, a building of this size does not generate heavy truck traffic. So I can't sit here and tell you what the traffic pattern is going to be because I don't know the user as of yet. But there are also, and Harold, you may know this better than me, or actually staff may know, you've got an ordinance in place that allows for violations to be filed against a user should they queue in the road for some reason. So there are other protections in the event it happens, but you typically see the queuing of trucks on much larger facilities. So hopefully I answered your question.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
This is Nathan. Let me add one thing really quickly, to just ask the petitioners. Could you talk a little bit about the proximity of this development to the bigger roadways nearby? I know that the traffic, I know one of the concerns that has been brought up here and elsewhere is the traffic queuing and the amount of traffic. Can you talk a little bit about, the trips and delivery time getting to and from this, and there's a reason that you're choosing this site, and what the road that it's close to is what I'm trying to get to.
Sure, I'll address that. So we were drawn to this area, as Harold said earlier, the site was available, but two, the proximity to an existing industrial area, Oakley Industrial, and we don't expect any trucks to take a left out of the facility to go, I think that would be eastbound on Spence Road. We would expect them to all turn right out and go to Oakley and either take a left on Oakley to Highway 74 to access Interstate 85 there in Fairburn and the Peachtree City exit, or to turn right onto Oakley Industrial off of Spence to go up to 138 Jonesboro Road and access 85 there. If you were to turn left onto Spence Road from our facility, it really takes you nowhere. You got to cross a railroad track. You'd have to take a left on Fayetteville Road and zigzag back up to the interstate. Just would not be in any transportation model that would make sense. The only traffic we expect coming from that direction would be people coming to work in their cars.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions before we close our time for comments? All right, we'll close the time for comments, and we'll call for a motion on recommending this parcel for approval. Can I get a motion from the commissioners on the floor?
I'd make a motion to approve 8185 Spence Road.
Rodney. I get a second? Commissioner Floyd, you're on mute if you're trying to second.
Shatika Floyd, I second the motion.
It has been motioned and seconded that the property located at 8185 Spence Road be approved. We will open the floor for a roll call vote. Mr. Gray?
All right, it'll be Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Yeah.
Janai Walters. Janai Walters. I'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Rachel Williams.
Yay.
Yes. Shatika Floyd. Shatika Floyd.
Aye.
There we go. All right, it is unanimous.
Thank you. And we will now move to our next property.
I have a point.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we got a point. Go ahead. Is that Marissa?
Is the commission amenable to accepting one more question from the from the YouTube chat for the developer, or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Mr. Thant Coleman says, if he wants to know if the builder will pay for signage to direct trucks accordingly.
May I respond to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I'll start my response with a question. I'm assuming that the question is with regard to whether we're willing to put signage at the curb cuts on our property, directing trucks to take a right-hand turn as we expect them to. Is that the question?
I think all we can do is assume that that is the question.
Okay. We are willing to do that.
All right. Thank you. We will move on to the next property.
Do we need to restate that and include that?
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to vote.
All right.
Well, just a moment before we move on. Nathan or Dana, do we need, or Marissa, do we need to memorialize the signage, or is in a vote, or is it just going to be? How should we handle that?
We'll make sure that that's part of the notes that are entered in the report for this.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next property.
All right. This is U20-001 3515 Butner Road. This is the first of 2 use permits for the same address. So if there's any confusion by the viewers seeing our slides, that's why it's 2 at the same address. The applicant is a church that is existing on the property, and they are applying for a use permit retroactively in order to expand their property or their development. If we can go to the next slide, please. See, the property is zoned with the church is on the sub-C part of this property. It has 2 zonings on the same property, and you can see where it is located. Go to the next slide. Here's a plan of what they plan to expand, and I will of course let the applicants. And I may have misspoken. The church is here. It looks here on the. It could be straddling the AG1 and the sub-C part of this property, but I'll certainly let the applicant explain their plans a little bit more and the details of what they want to do. The recommendation here for the use permit by staff is approval.
All right. We will hear the presentation from the applicant.
Yes, this is Kevin Whipple. I am the architect for Berean Bible Baptist Church, representing CSC Design. And this project, as outlined, is basically when we began this project with Berean Bible Baptist, we understood that there was already an SUP in place. So we reached out to the city and asked if we could find that special use permit. And through lots of searching, we were unable to locate the special use permit. The original church, we believe, was built in the 1970s. And over the time, it was either never operating under an SUP or it was lost through the multiple shuffles that the county and city went through. So at that time, it was decided to go ahead and get our paperwork in order for the church and apply for the special use permit. We are requesting 1 variance as part of this special use permit, and that is to not have to replant the buffer along Butner Road. Not sure if there's an aerial photo of the site, but the current front of the church or front of the property along Butner is pretty much just grass. There's no plantings there right now. So we would like to leave it that way. The proposed expansion would be in the site plan you're looking at right now. The existing church or sanctuary is the kind of light blue box. To the left of that, kind of an L shape, is a dashed line. That is the existing classroom building that is slated to be demolished. And then the larger pink box is the expansion into a new sanctuary and classroom facility. That sanctuary will seat 488 people and be surrounded by classrooms. The existing sanctuary can hold around 550 to 600 people, as it does have a balcony, which we are not putting a balcony in the expansion. The existing sanctuary will be repurposed into a fellowship hall. And you will see here that we are also expanding the parking capacity to meet the city's requirements. I can't quite read on this slide, but we are required to have 140 parking spaces based on a 488 seat sanctuary. And we are showing plus or minus 145 parking spaces currently. During the preliminary discussion that the commissioners had, there was a comment about the septic field for the existing church, which the existing church is on septic. However, there is a sanitary stub at the western portion of the property near Wellesley subdivision that through part of this expansion, we will be taking not only the expansion, but the existing church and tying it into the sanitary sewer system.
Is there a representative from the church on the call as well? Or is it just you, Mr. Wimple?
No, I am Brett Henry. I'm one of the elders from the church. I am on the call.
All right.
Wait.
We want to open this up for public. Any other comments from the applicant? Before we go to, so Mr. Gray and Ms. Jackson, any public comment from YouTube or the email?
I don't have any.
Me neither.
All right. So we will close public comment. Commissioners, any questions or comments? So earlier, oh, go ahead, Rodney, was that you?
No questions, no ma'am.
Any questions?
No questions.
No, I mean from anybody. So I have a question. The first thing I heard was about the buffer, so the space between the existing sanctuary to Buntner Road, that you said that would not be replaced, that will stay the same?
Yes, ma'am. This is Kevin, the architect. Part of we are in the Cliftondale overlay requirements, and part of that is I believe, 50-foot undisturbed buffer, and replanting of that buffer should it be need to be replanted. And so we're asking to just leave the existing unplanted the way it is currently, and not have to plant that large length of frontage along Buntner Road, causing additional costs to be expended by the church.
Okay.
The plan is to keep it grass, correct?
Yes, sir. And we will leave all of the other undisturbed buffers around the remaining 3 sides of the property, which are abutted by residential. That will all remain heavily wooded and undisturbed as it is currently.
And so with the building going there, and you need 140 parking spaces, like where would those spaces actually be if you're adding a building to the existing space that I believe is being used for parking?
Currently, the parking is actually around the rear and the side, but you will see on this site plan, it's not really showing. Yeah, the cursor is kind of moving around the proposed parking.
Okay.
Correct.
And then that area around the rear still will have the trees as a buffer?
Yes, correct. The Cliftondale overlay has a pretty healthy undisturbed buffer, plus an additional buffer, I believe, for impervious that we have to maintain. So I think it's around 60 feet. If I remember correctly, yeah, 50 feet of Cliftondale overlay undisturbed buffer, plus 10 feet of improvement setback. So 60 feet off the property line.
Okay. And I know
this is Nathan. I just want some I'm sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Nathan.
I just wanted to answer for some clarification, because this is obviously the Planning Commission, not the Board of Appeals. So this board cannot grant you a variance on a buffering requirement. That'd be a separate conversation. But I just need some clarification, because my brain is not quite wrapping around what you're saying here. Because if the area is currently undisturbed and the guidelines require a certain amount of undisturbed buffer, and you're not going to disturb it in the first place, then you're good to go regardless. And that's what I was just a little confused to what you're trying to convey there.
No problem. So I guess our understanding or our concern is just to make sure that the church will not be required to plant that buffer up to a certain amount. I'm not the civil engineer, unfortunately, but that's my understanding. Yeah,
as long as you're outside of, and we could discuss that when you submit actual development plans and go for all the specific approved building approvals, that could be addressed. But as long as you're allowing the correct distance of the buffers here, you'll be fine. But any specific planning requirements would have to be addressed at a separate time. But here, I see that you have enough space laid out, and if the intent is to keep it as it is, which is also coincidentally the same or the proper amount of space for the area you're in, then you're fine with that requirement. Does that make sense? I know I use a lot of words.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I guess we were
Okay.
just crossing our T's and dotting our I's, but yeah, we
Totally understand. Thanks.
just like
for
to
that.
leave that as is.
Okay. So just a point of reference for the commission, since we have two, we're considering two things for this same property. Can we keep those together? Can we vote on them? Do we need to vote on them separately?
Yes.
We still need to vote separately.
Yes, please vote separately.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Can we go back to the original slide with the request, please? Marissa, thank you. All right, so we will call for a motion on this property for the use permit for the church.
This is Janai Walters. I call for a motion to approve the recommendation for the use permit for the church. Although the church is existing in use, it is not conforming according to the zoning regulations. Henceforth, the request.
This is Rodney Hadley. I second that.
So it has been motioned and properly second that the property located at 3515 Butner Road be approved for a use permit for the church. Mr. Gray, will you call for a vote?
Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Yay.
Janai Walters,
Yay.
Rachel Williams,
Yay.
and Shatika Floyd.
Shatika, you're on, Commissioner Floyd, you're on mute.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous.
Thank you. We'll move to the next issue for this property.
All right, the next case is 20002, again, 3515 Butner. The petitioner is applying to open a daycare, run a daycare at the Bible Baptist Church. This specific use requires a use permit. There is surely a need for these services in the community, and the staff recommendation is approval. I want to make one point of note that was brought up in the pre-app meetings, and that was the discussion of a fire sprinkler system in the existing building for this use. But there is sufficient ingress and egress to this facility from the building and from the parts that would be used as a daycare to not require the addition of a sprinkler system. So that point, if it would come up, has been addressed. So there, I believe there's a sketch site plan of how they want to do the inside of the building right here, yes. And I believe the petitioners are online.
Yes, good evening. This is Kelia Smith. I'm representing Ole Tots Learning Center. And based on the floor plan, we are only using the fellowship hall. If you can see that on the diagram. So according to the fire department, we are in compliance with regards to the exit. So there's no sprinkler system required at this time.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? You're using the fellowship hall, so you
Yes,
don't.
so with the daycare, initially we had planned to use 2 classrooms and the fellowship hall, but because of the fire requirements, we would need a sprinkler system, and it was kind of like out of the budget. So when we met with the city of South Fulton, the fire department, if we use the fellowship hall with dividers, the exit door in that fellowship hall is sufficient to accommodate like at least 100 people. But we don't have that many students, but we are in compliance in terms of the fire code.
So if you grow past 100, if you get 101 students,
No, we're not having 101, not with
Are
what's
you,
going on right now, Ms.
are
Brown.
you, okay, so you're
Right now, we're
limited,
licensed for 36.
okay. All right. We want to open any other comments from the applicant? We'd like to open the floor for public comment. Mr. Gray, Ms. Jackson, any public comment on this property?
I have none in the emails.
I have none in the YouTube chat.
All right. We'll close public comment, open the floor for the commissioners. Any questions or comments related to the use of this property for daycare?
Yes, this is Janai Walters. I have a question for the church representative there, the daycare representative. I see that you have a license for 36. Is that are you expecting to increase that license within the next 3 to 5 years?
Right now, with what's going on, we'll probably stay within the 36, maybe 40 guideline. But the state is who determines the number of students that the daycare can have. But no,
Okay.
we don't plan on having, 100 kids, no.
Okay. And then the second question I had was just about the I believe this is the septic system, an evaluation that's been done with regards to, the increase in use for the fellowship hall and new capacity of people that will be there.
Well, right now, I'm still in the process of getting a septic tank letter.
Okay.
Because there's some issues with like open records and they weren't able to locate some of the documents. But that's a requirement to get licensure. So I'm still working on getting a letter.
Okay. Thank you.
Question is, so the expansion that we spoke of previously, that's not associated with the connecting of this building to the sewer system?
No, the expansion doesn't have anything to do with the daycare.
Okay, so we are, it's my understanding that they won't be licensed unless the requirements are satisfied for the occupants in the septic tank. Is that right, Dana?
Let Nathan chime in on that one.
Yeah, licensing with the state for daycares, licensing for daycares and childcare happens at the state level. So that would be that they're going to regulate that and oversee that. We would obviously do everything we need to do from the city side to help them get their records as best we have them available to us, if that makes sense. But we certainly want to be helpful to them to get this taken care of.
Right. The only issue with licensure right now is that the state will not issue a temporary license until I'm able to show proof that I have an approved special use permit. So once I have a special use permit, then there's a second part of the application in which I would have to submit the septic tank letter. It's like a 2-part process.
Do you have that letter already? Has it been inspected?
Well, I submitted it, but like I said, the issue is the open records and lack thereof. So I have tried to get it, but they don't have one available. So I was able to get like measurements and things like that, but I just need a letter to show that it's approved for childcare, which is not an issue based on the information that I received from the county. It's just that I need to get an official letter and I'm still waiting on it.
This is Nathan. I'm just going to chime in. I have not received. I'm not sure which level of government or which department you need that letter from. But if there's anything I can do, I don't believe that planning is the place you need it from. But if it is, or anything I can do on the city side to help you get that, just let me know and I'll see what phone calls I can make or anything like that to try and get that letter written for you. But I certainly don't want the city of South Fulton to be to delay this any more than you are at this time.
Right. It's coming from the health department.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic.
I don't have any other questions.
I'd like to circle back on the comment from Commissioner Walters around the, just the forecasting from 3 to 5 years and growing. So if we're looking past the days of today with COVID and social distancing, I think just for the record, just to know that if this grows, if we have to, will we have to come back and look at a sprinkler system for this if you decide to get more students and this is a full, that all the space will be used for education. I think we should just be aware that that could be a possibility if you were granted more space, you were granted to permitted to have more students than the 36.
Ms. Brown, this is Nathan. Let me just say this too. Remember from our last case, the architect there, I don't know if he's still on or not, but mentioned that this building, the sanctuary part of this building was going to be converted into a fellowship hall at some point, and the fellowship hall area was going to be demolished. So at some point in the future, there'll be some re-engineering of this facility and changing up of this space entirely. So that would be an issue that would just, number one, totally understandable. And we certainly hope you can expand if you so desire to be that much larger and that much more successful. I want to say that for the record. But my understanding from the previous case is that this entire building may undergo some renovations at some time. So, fitting 100 children in this one room would certainly be a stretch. But at some point in the future, there may be sufficient size and developed facilities here to accommodate that. And if that's the desire of the participant or the applicant, we certainly hope they are able to grow that large.
Well, just to answer that, with COVID right now, we are using the COVID protocols. We do the temperature checks, the hand washing, throughout the day. Visitors are not allowed inside and so forth, but we've only signed a 1-year commitment with the church. So, if granted, we don't plan to stay there that long. So I think we will be okay in terms of the just using the fellowship hall, and definitely not, even if we're licensed for 100, I wouldn't allow 100 students, not with the present state of affairs, if that makes sense. So.
And I'd also like to add a point of information, if I may. When we have use permits for daycares, it's not unusual that the commission granting them places a condition to limit the number of students that the daycare can have there. So you could say she can have a use permit for 40 kids at this location. If, as a commission, you so desire to, you could add that condition.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Ms.
Well,
Brown.
I had a question in regards to what she was talking about with the COVID. The fellowship being 1,638 square feet. Is this how many kids or students can actually be in here under the circumstances we are in right now?
Well, right
with the distancing
in
protocol.
terms of, I hear like a feedback or someone's microphone. In terms of the space, the state is who determines how many students you can have. So they have like some formula that they use, and they can come in and say, okay, well, based on the square footage, you can use 20, 30. I don't know, what is allowed right now, but I'm licensed right now currently at the current location for 36. That's the number that I put out there. But like I said, with the state of affairs and the health crisis that we're facing, I even if I were licensed for 100, I would not allow 100 students in at this time. No.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right. We will close this and we will take can we go back to the initial first page, please? Thank you, Marissa. We will call for a motion for the property located at 3515 Butner Road to grant a use permit for a daycare at the Berean Bible Baptist Church. May I get a motion from the floor?
I'd like to make a motion, recommend approval or to recommend 3515 Butner Road.
Can I get a second? I think Commissioner Floyd, I think you're on mute.
Shatika Floyd, I second the motion.
It has been moved and properly second that the property located at 3515 Butner Road receive a special use permit for a daycare center at the Berean Bible Baptist Church. We will call for a vote. Mr. Gray, can you do a roll call
Yes.
vote?
Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Yay.
Janai Walters,
Yay.
Rachel Williams,
Yay.
and Shatika Floyd.
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Right, and I think we have one more property for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right, we can go back to Jonesboro Road. I think we're one slide too far. Get back. There we go.
Is the applicant on the
20
call?
Yeah, let's. Are the applicants for this one on the call? Michelle, you here?
I am here.
Excellent. All right, let's go through this again, and you'll be on in just a second. This is Z20-003, 3825 and 3895 Jonesboro. A petitioner is seeking to rezone these two parcels from AG1 to SH Senior Housing to develop a senior housing facility. This developer has done developments like this around the Southeast and is experienced in this area. There will be a need for this type of development in the city. And given the traffic access available in the area on the road and the existing commercial development nearby, it would be very suitable for the area. Staff does recommend approval here. We can go to the next slide, please. Next slide, rather, please. So the area is sort of on a curve in the road. The two parcels there, 25 and 95. There is nothing on the site currently. Go to the next slide, please. Should be the adjacent parcel. Yep. And the next slide is the aerial view of the proposed development, a very large building. And the next slide here is also a proposed elevation. And the floor is back to the chair.
Thank you. We will have a presentation from the applicant, Ms. Battle.
Hey, Michelle Battle with Battle Law, 1 West Court Square, Suite 750, Decatur, Georgia, 30030. First of all, thank you all for allowing my matter to be pushed down on the agenda. I had a conflicting Zoom meeting on some other projects in another jurisdiction, so I really do appreciate your accommodation. CRN Development is extremely excited about this particular location. We do believe that it is suitable for the area. We are on a commercial corridor and an interior road. There's very little development. There's a lot of AG properties that are in this particular area. The owners of this property actually own, in addition to the 10 acres that we're seeking to rezone, they own an additional roughly 5 to 6 acres, plus a relative owns property next to this. All of which we believe is up for sale. So we know that this area is going to be transitioning. We are looking to develop 110 units for seniors. Because of the SH district regulations, this will be restricted to 62 years and older. The site will include a computer lab, a community kitchen, fully equipped exercise rooms, and covered grill. These units are for independent living. This is not an assisted living facility. This is simply apartments for seniors. They've had a great amount of success and experience with this particular model. If you go to the overall site plan, you will see we do have one large building. We will be providing some outdoor spaces for gathering of the residents, and believe that it will flow very nicely with regards to the use of the property, and will not in any way negatively impact any of the surrounding uses in the area. So with that, I do have Carrie Cornelison on the phone, on the Zoom call with us here. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
All right, now we will open the comments from public comment. Mr. Gray, you have any comments from the email?
Yes, I have two. From Michael Drummond, his concern about the senior living facility being built on Jonesboro Road. The entry into this new facility is right next to Peters Road off of 138 Jonesboro Road. And he's asking the question, are they considering putting a traffic light on 138 and Peters Road? And he states at that intersection, there have been more than 1 to 2 accidents a week at that location. His concern is upon entering and exiting from that senior facility to Jonesboro Road and Peters Road. My second comment is from Michael Venable. He is requesting the commission deny of this petition. Although there are many major issues with this proposal, the most blatant is that it is highly improper to initiate a land use change to support a development. This commission spent a tremendous amount of time reviewing the zoning rewrite, and in one swoop, a private developer changing the plan makes everybody's review a total waste. The land use for this property does not support high density rental units. Land use is suburban neighborhood. Approving this petition constitutes spot zoning, which is not proper for any municipality. The proposed use does not comply with this land use. And that concludes my comments.
Ms. Jackson, any public comments from YouTube?
No comments at this time.
Okay. Commission, we will close public comment. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? I think my question, I would like to have Ms. Battle address the entrance and the signage and any lights for the entrance going in and out of the facility, and how many entrances are you proposing? Do we have that in the
It's in the, if we can go back to the slide.
Go back to the, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So with regards to traffic, we certainly had our community meeting, and there were questions and concerns that have been raised about the movement of traffic along Jonesboro Road. We will be doing and ensuring that we do have sight distance visibility. Those are kind of the little red lines that you see there. We have an offset from Peters Street, so our entrance is not directly across Peters Street. It is my understanding that the problems that currently exist on Jonesboro Road, I'm not sure if the city has been looking into any improvements there. We had put an email out to our transportation manager, Tom Udell, to see if he had any specific comments with regards to the site. But, you know, we have provided the one point of entrance. And again, we will ensure that we have sight distance visibility. We anticipate that we'll have a decel lane into the site, but we will wait again for comments from the city with regards to what the city will be requiring there. There are no plans for any type of traffic signal. This project in and of itself does not warrant a traffic signal, we believe, with the volume of traffic that is already allowed on Jonesboro Road. We will only have a total of 110 units. And I'm not sure if I answered all of your questions, but I think I did.
Yeah. The parking, is it all street and surface parking?
All street parking. You can see the parking on the site plan. Okay. We have a total of 1.4 spots minimum, and we've got 157 parking spaces, along with 8 handicap parking spaces.
know we spent a lot of time on the land use and like I think what 2 months, maybe actually the commission before the public 2 months, and then just the number of months of addressing this. And I know I saw in I don't know if it was this one or another property from the staff, a note that this is an opportunity for something that we may have overlooked related to senior living with the land use. Can someone from the staff address that?
Yeah, let me pull up the staff report. I believe I did make a comment on that, but I want to make sure I'm not misquoting myself. So give me just a second. You can keep talking, and I'm going to pull it up and find that so I can quote myself directly or refresh my memory just a little bit.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission or comments?
Hello, this is Commissioner Williams. I have a question. The citizen who actually says something about the traffic light. Where is the nearest traffic light? I mean, looking at this plan, I can't see, but I am familiar with Jonesboro Road, and they're spelled incorrectly up there also.
I think that the nearest traffic light is actually within the city of Union City. It is further up the road going back towards I guess it's 85.
85.
So I'm familiar with this area. Is this where all the new car dealerships are at?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. If you keep moving towards the interstate, that entire strip is basically car dealership city.
This is a very heavy traffic area. I know because I live one exit over. And the fact that it is no lights, I understand what they're saying in traffic lights. Because there's one, and then if you're trying to get in and out of, I think that's Butner Road, it's really hard. So I don't know exactly where this lines up at, but I am familiar with how much traffic is on that road and how hard it is to get out on certain roads.
It's not just traffic, it is fast moving traffic. they
Correct.
move.
Yes, it's fast moving traffic. That's why I asked where was the closest traffic light, because that tends to help, know where you can get out if it's slowing down somewhere.
And I think it might be at the CVS, which is the Union City side. I think that's the last traffic light you get.
Yeah, at Buffington.
Get to Old
138.
National.
Yeah,
Right.
before you
Get
get
all the way to Old National.
Yeah. And traffic lights are not necessarily in our jurisdiction. I think we can highly recommend it. It can be in a report. Nathan, have you found your notes?
Yes, I have, and I thank you for bringing that point back up. So the current future land use plan, and I stress current future land use plan because that's something that will be addressed in reviewing our comprehensive plan over the next 18 months or so, characterizes this area as suburban 2 neighborhood, which is classified as residential with 2 to 3 units per acre. Now, given the street frontage and the just previously discussed commercial development, this is probably not. And I say that, keep in mind that is a combination of my education in planning, my experience in planning, and somewhat of my, planners / staff opinion that I have to give you. So I can't necessarily say these words as the gospel per se. But having this as a more dense residential use certainly blends more with the commercial activity in the area and the type of road that it is becoming, as opposed to a 2 to 3 house per acre residential zone. And so that's why, and I'm glad you phrased it as an opportunity, because that's exactly what it is from my perspective. It's an area that should probably, in our future land use plan and our future revisions of that, be put under a microscope a little bit, given the development that is in the area and the traffic patterns in the area.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the commission? All right, can you guys go back to, Marissa, go back to the first page of this? All right. So I am going to call for a motion for the property located at 3825 and 3895 Jonesboro Road, and we're going to correct the spelling of Jonesboro, to rezone.
I am so sorry for that.
That's okay. Hey, it's a bunch of ORs, OR. It's no problem. To approve the rezoning of 2 parcels from AG1 to senior housing with the intent of developing a senior living facility on these 2 parcels. Can I get a motion to approve or not to approve?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the rezoning of 3825 and 3895 Jonesboro Road.
Some levity to end the evening. How about that?
Exactly. It's been a long evening.
Greatly appreciated.
Can I get a commissioner to second this motion?
Commissioner Janai Walters, I second the motion.
It has been moved and properly second that the property located at 3825 and 3895 Jonesboro Road be rezoned 2 parcels from AG1 to SH Senior Housing with the intent of developing a senior living facility. We will have a roll call vote. Mr. Gray, will you call for the vote, please?
Sure. Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Yay.
Janai Walters,
Yay.
Rachel Williams,
Yay.
and Shatika Floyd.
Aye.
It is unanimous for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this concludes our Planning Commission meeting for today, August 18th, 2020. I'd like to call a motion to adjourn.
Janai Walters, I call a motion to adjourn.
I second.
I started.
It has been moved and properly second to adjourn our meeting, our Planning Commission meeting for today, August 18th, 2020. We'll call for a vote, a roll call vote. Mr. Gray.
Rodney Hadley,
Aye.
Janine Brown,
Yay.
Janai Walters,
Yay.
Rachel Williams,
Yay.
and Shatika Floyd.
Aye.
And the vote is unanimous for adjournment.
All right. Well, we want to thank you all for coming.
And for the record, the next PC virtual meeting will be held 6 o'clock on Tuesday, September 15th, 2020.
All right. We will see
Thank
you
you,
all on September
and
15th.
thank you all so much. This was a great meeting tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Staff.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night to all
Great job.
participants. Good night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Take care, everyone.
Hey, I forgot I can control the mute.